Hello everyone, welcome to Massimo Motivation. My name is Christopher Massimo, and today I'm going to teach you how to trick your brain into doing hard things. Stay tuned. Welcome to Massimo Motivation. Guys, today I'm going to teach you how to trick your brain into doing the things that you don't really want to do. So let's start off by talking about dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter and a hormone, most commonly connected to desire or pleasure. Now, that's really, really important because you doing something is typically predicated on whether or not you desire or feel motivated to do that thing, right? Well, motivation is a concept that I think a lot of people kind of throw around theoretically, but it's often connected to whether or not you think a thing will bring you desire. And that thought of whether or not a thing will bring you desire actually releases dopamine in your brain. And if it does, you're more likely to access that behavior. So let me give you an example, okay? If you have a piece of cake in front of you on one plate and a celery stick on the other plate, just looking at that piece of cake is going to release dopamine in your brain. You are therefore more likely, more motivated to grab that piece of cake and eat it. And what happens is after you eat it, you feel more dopamine. You feel this rush. So now you're reinforced through that dopaminergic pathway to do that behavior again when you're presented with another opportunity like it. Okay, so in short, if you think the activity will bring you more dopamine, you're motivated. Not if it actually does or not. Okay, so high dopamine activities are commonly associated with things like playing video games, scrolling through social media, and these are the reasons why you can sit there for hours and just scroll and never lose concentration. Now, a lot of people, they can do this. They'll lay in bed at night and they'll just scroll and they'll scroll and they'll scroll, and they can stay honed in and locked into that activity. And it's because it keeps releasing dopamine. And these companies know that. You know, companies like Instagram, their heart system, when you log in and it pops that heart up to show you how many likes you just had since the last time you logged in, that's reinforcing that slot machine type of system, that dopaminergic reward every time you go in there and log in. So, okay, great. Now, what do you do? Now we know that it's a dopamine. How do we trick our brain into changing that? Well, you're not going to really like that answer, but it's essentially a dopamine detox. So the fun police, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to identify somebody that can help hold you accountable during this period of time. Because depending on how bad this lack of motivation is currently in your life, or how reliant you are on certain behaviors to produce that dopamine, like binge eating or sex or gambling, depending on how bad that is, changes how bad that dopamine detox is going to be for you, right? So an exaggerated example is being in an inpatient facility for 12 to 16 weeks when you're rehabbing, when you're basically being forced to be removed from access to a particular item, behavior, or substance. That's a dopamine detox. Now, you can do this at home for lesser severe instances. So like when it comes to scrolling through social media or playing video games. If you have a kid, or if that's you, plan a day per week or every other week or per month where you basically do nothing that you enjoy. And I know that sounds horrible. It sounds counterintuitive, but trust me. That dopamine detox will help to keep that threshold of dopamine at bay. Okay, so it'll help to keep you from getting to a point where you require a certain amount of a certain activity to get enough pleasure and desire. Okay, so now again, you need that accountability partner, preferably somebody at home, somebody who kind of is on the same page with you that can do this with you, because you're not naturally going to want to do it. You're not naturally going to want to give up one day a month where you do absolutely nothing that you enjoy. But you need that time to reset. And a lot of people right now, at the time I'm recording this, are still in quarantine with the coronavirus. And they're realizing that after 3-4 weeks of quarantine, the things that they once enjoyed are no longer as pleasurable. That's because they've actually been removed. They've either had an excess amount or they've actually been removed from the things that they once enjoyed. And they're bored. So they're having to find other ways to produce dopamine. And that's kind of a similar instance to what I'm asking you to do here is quarantine yourself away from the things that you naturally use for dopamine every so often. So what will happen is you'll change those thresholds. you'll stop using the particular behaviors that you're used to using, and you'll actually open the door for behaviors that can produce dopamine that are healthier, less maladaptive, that maybe you're not using. For example, exercise, right? We know that exercise can bring down depression. We know that it can decrease depression and increase dopamine levels, as well as serotonin and some other neurotransmitters there. But you can implement something that maybe you weren't used to using as that resource for dopamine. You now have the window to do that. So this is how you trick your brain into changing that lack of motivation behavior. You know, when I'm working with clients, I tell them, listen, there's a psychological component to it, for sure. There's segments, there's pieces to a pie chart, essentially, of changing anything that you're working on. And the example I like to use for the neuroscience part is neuroscientists have actually done these studies with rats. They would have the rat press a lever over and over and over again, and each time they did, they'd get a shock to the dopaminergic pathway. Well, what happens is they did that for hours and hours and hours, and then when they were done, the rats wouldn't even move to eat. They wouldn't move to mate. They would only eat if they actually put the food in the rat's mouth. Meaning, for those of you who have become accustomed to a large amount of dopamine coming from a particular instance or a particular behavior or a particular context, you're going to have so much, you're going to do that for so long. You're going to change the threshold levels in your brain. And it's going to make doing other things in your life, like eating, that's not going to be a problem for you, but that's going to make other things in your life harder to feel motivated to go do, because you're going to change that threshold. So start with that today. Implement that. Guys, if you like this video, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. My goodness, I don't know how much longer I can do quarantine. I got to get a haircut. This is absolutely ridiculous. I can't stand it anymore. My dopamine, I'm lucky. I have access to a garage gym, which is saving my life for my dopamine. But right now, I know it's hard for you guys out there. I'm not sure when you're watching this video, but you're going to need if you're going to be in quarantine especially, you're going to need to learn how to trick your brain into doing the things that you don't want to do. If you like this, please subscribe, please like, and as always, remember, mind, muscle, maximize.